In this program, Donna Presley offers a rare first-hand account from inside one of the world's most closely observed families. Presented with measured clarity and without speculation, introducing Donna Presley.
Hello everyone, I'm Donna Presley, and I'd like to welcome you to Donna Presley Official YouTube channel. People sometimes ask whether Elvis had bone cancer, because that idea keeps resurfacing in interviews, online discussions, and older documentaries. Let me say this clearly. No one in our family ever heard anything about Elvis having bone cancer. It was never mentioned inside the home, never brought up by any doctor who cared for him. And when his medical examinations were reviewed after his passing, there was no cancer found. So, how did this rumor begin? Well, to understand that, you need to understand what it was like living at Graceland. There was always a problem with gossip slipping outside the gates. People talked, sometimes out of excitement, sometimes out of pride, and sometimes simply because they wanted to feel important. And there were others who saw an opportunity to sell a story. A small comment could travel a mile, and a private moment could become public in an instant. Because of that, Uncle Vernon would sometimes lay traps to see where leaks were coming from. He would share a piece of information with only a few people, something dramatic enough that if it resurfaced outside, he would know exactly who carried it. On at least one occasion, the word cancer was used as part of that test. Not because Elvis had it, but because Uncle Vernon needed to know who he could trust. Elvis himself did something similar. He would sometimes say something striking or create a moment deliberately just to see who repeated it. It wasn't deceit for its own sake. It was protection. When you are that famous, you have to know who is repeating your private words and who is keeping them safe. That is the environment in which a rumor like bone cancer could escape the house without ever being true. There is also something that needs to be said with respect and understanding. Charlie Hodge once repeated the bone cancer story in an interview, saying that Dr. Nick had told him Uncle Vernon had said that cancer had spread throughout Elvis's body. Now, Charlie was one of the kindest, most loyal people around Elvis, and one of the few people I truly cared deeply for. If he repeated those words, it was either because he believed he was protecting Elvis or because someone had said it in his presence for reasons we may never fully know. As I've explained, Graceland could be a place where dramatic statements were sometimes used to test loyalty or identify who was carrying stories outside the house. Many people found the idea of a tragic illness easier to accept than the reality of exhaustion, chronic pain, and the pressure Elvis carried in those final years. Charlie spoke from loyalty, but his recollection does not align with the medical facts or with anything our family ever understood to be true. And when you consider Uncle Vernon's own conviction that his son had been deliberately taken from us, it becomes clear that the idea of Elvis living with a terminal cancer diagnosis was never part of our reality. Those two positions cannot stand together. And here is the truth from a medical standpoint. If Elvis had advanced bone cancer, he would have required the kind of palliative medication and medical care used specifically for cancer pain. Treatment that makes ordinary movement, travel, and stage performance utterly impossible. That kind of care was never part of his life. Nothing in the way he lived worked, or was treated medically fits the pattern of a man receiving terminal cancer treatment. Yes, Elvis used medication, but every one of those medications related to existing medical conditions he had been dealing with for years. None of them were cancer treatments, and none were the medications used for managing cancer pain. Cancer care follows a very specific medical pathway with a completely different set of drugs and a very different physical decline. Nothing in Elvis's treatment, nothing in his prescriptions, and nothing in how he continued to work reflects the pattern of a man being treated for cancer. I also understand why some fans hold onto the cancer story. Emotionally, it can feel kinder. It allows people to think this was something unavoidable, outside anyone's control. I understand that because people love him so much. But my responsibility is to keep the record straight. The family never heard of bone cancer. His doctors did not diagnose bone cancer, and the medical examinations did not show any cancer at all. The rumor grew out of a household where gossip leaked, where trust was tested, and where a dramatic word could travel farther than anyone ever intended. Elvis deserves the truth, not the shadows that formed around his life. And as his family, and as someone who saw firsthand how deeply Uncle Vernon protected him, I will always speak for the reality of who he was, not for the rumors, not for the noise, but for the man himself. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for listening, and until next time, God bless.
As this program concludes, Donna Presley's account adds clarity to a period often spoken about, but rarely explained with such calm precision. Her perspective helps bring definition to events that have long been shaped by speculation rather than understanding. Thank you for watching. For more programs that look beyond the headlines and examine the story with care, subscribe to the channel and continue this journey with us.